Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball 25, episode 18. We've progressed now to 130 games into the season, and the team has rebounded a little bit. They went through a really rough stretch, definitely playing some better ball right now than they had been through the month of, like, say, July. July was a really bad month into August. They've cleaned it up through most of August now. 54 and 76 overall at this point. We've already eclipsed last season's, or no, not last season, 2 seasons ago's win total, and we're closing in on last season's win total. Defensively, we've been about the same. Defensive efficiency has dropped off with some injuries that we've had, and offensively, we've actually fallen all the way to last place. Yet we've still managed to improve. In fact, 6-4 here in the last 10, 54, 76 overall. A couple games ahead of the Angels. It's not too bad right now with how things are going. I have made a few shuffles around with our minor league system, moving players up or down to fill some gaps. All in all, things are looking fairly good heading in down the stretch for the season. If not for that really, really bad stretch of about 40 games where we won maybe 15 of them. Actually, no, it really would have been worse than that. I think we would have been closer to like 10 and 30 over that stretch. We really lost a lot of games in a short period of time. Just over a month anyway. It's not that short of a time, but outside of that and a slow start to the season, it's been a good year. There's been a lot of 500 ball through big chunks of the season, but then we've shown our vulnerability at times and gone on these bad runs. Let's see if we can do a little bit better down the final month, down the final stretch. If we can play anywhere near 500 ball the rest of the way, it'll be our best year by far of two, but it'll be the club's best year of the last four. A few days forward into September, and Armenteros, who got that recent call up due to the injury replacement, has done well. His current I rating goes up, and that puts him right back into the just barely good enough for 2.5-star rating. Young Edgar Ramos down in single A, current contact and defensive rating has improved. Jose Rodriguez has improved. Palominos has improved. Really good outcomes for a lot of guys other than a reliever dropping off and another reliever dropping off. That's probably the best, or one of the best, individual months that we've seen, where we're seeing a good 4 very, very positive development sides, 2 good development sides, and only a couple downsides in terms of how the players are doing. And with it being the first, we now have that major league roster expansion, opening up 2 more spots on the roster. Denzel Clark is 4 days until he's going to be back from his injury. So I'm going to save 1 spot for him, as it couldn't be clearer that you would want Denzel Clark coming back in here in 4 days. And that means I have 1 spot available for somebody else, an extra pitcher, somebody who's ready. I mean, accordingly, there's a lot of players who have that ready to go. There's 7, there's 8, there's 10, 11. I've got 16 players that are ready to go, including all 5 starters and a reliever. I have options, but one of the big keys is going to be, who do we have options to be able to send back down? Who do we want to give that time to? There's question marks, but I'll look through them and pick 1 player to bring up for the time being. Reliever Eric Martinez, or Marinez, was somebody who was on the major league roster at the beginning of the season when we made some moves earlier, as we got some guys healthy towards the beginning of the season. He got bumped down to AAA, where he's done well in 29 innings since. 17 innings at the major league level wasn't awful with a 6.11 ERA. So we're going to go ahead and bring him back up to add some pitching depth and then save that other spot. We have 13 to 14 games left to go in the season, depending on which team you're talking about. And we've already eclipsed last year's win total. We now have 60 wins on the season. It definitely hasn't gone as well as I had hoped it to go, but with 13 games for us left, 10 away from what was predicted for the season, we're clearly not going to go 10-3. But if we can go near 500 for that 13, if we can get at least 6 wins, I'd say we're making a solid step forward from a year ago. That would be 7 wins better than the year prior, which was 9 wins prior to the year before. definite steps in that right direction. We find ourselves just 2 games behind the Angels. We are eliminated from the playoffs, but we're better than the Royals. We're just behind a whole lot of teams, which isn't necessarily a bad place to be because that improves your odds for the lottery. At 60 and 89 right now, the Royals are the only ones. They're the only ones below us. We are 29th out of 30, yet we are quite a bit better than we were a year ago. If we can stay right about where we're at, if we can win 4 out of 10, so maybe 5 wins the rest of the way, end up at about 65, there's hardly a team out there that's going to end up being behind us. And if we're lucky, really just the Royals, and we can go into the draft with second best odds and yet be a significantly better team than we were, who essentially would have underperformed this season because of 2 bad runs. That's encouraging. And with a bunch of money coming off the books, I like where we could be headed into next season. I don't necessarily like where we've been since July, but all in all, kind of encouraged by a number of factors that I'm seeing. Down to 7 to play, and in the 6 games we just did, we won 4 of them. So all of a sudden we find ourselves at 64 and 91. And like I said, if we win too many, you pass up a bunch of teams and lower your playoff odds. And it's kind of one of those, you don't really want to do that. We're not tanking, but we don't necessarily want to win a ton of games either. But we find ourselves level with the Angels, but we have not passed anybody else up. We're still looking at least 2 games behind any other team as we go forward. It'd be okay if you pass up one team in the Angels. We just don't want to pass up a lot. Pitching has gotten better. The defensive efficiency has gone up massively. Strikeouts have gone up. ERA has improved. We're dead last in offense, but we have made improvements in the defense. We see that Mitch Spence has gotten down to under a 4 ERA. Mason Miller just over 4. Everybody else mid-4s except for JP Sears. Again, the bullpen's also improved offensively. Well, those batting averages aren't great. Geloff has improved to a 260. The number of home runs, the number of RBIs, like nobody is excelling. No wonder we're last place. Denzel Clark returned to us from the disabled list, looking more like a rookie of late. He's been a bit cold since coming back from that injury. I mean, the great news is, we're talking about league minimum rookie level stuff, so no big deal as we head into the next season. With the season about to wrap up, checking in one more time on those about to be expired contracts. Demands might not be that high, but Sean Newcomb's AAA level kind of guy. He got his chance this year, had near an 8 ERA. He wants too much money, and he's 32. Marte is 36, and I'm just happy to get rid of that salary. And even though he's only asking 2 for a new contract, no way. He has had negative value for us. His slugging's under 300. His on base just 280, and his defense is atrocious. He's a DH making like $16 million. No. That was a 1-year deal to get rid of him, and that's exactly what we're going to follow through with. Zach Jackson, just a 2-star guy, $2 million, not a big deal. Rengifo is the one that you start questioning. The 2.5-star current, shortstops get paid more. Demand is 5.5. He's making $5 million, but we already tried to trade him this season and found that he had negative value. His defense is only 45. His eye is not great. He's hitting 229 this year. He hit 222 a year ago. While he's improved in some ways this year, he's really not doing enough. He's really not doing enough to justify the contract. Now, if he was making minimum or, in the neighborhood of these 3, I would definitely consider hanging on to him. $2 million for a backup infielder who's versatile and can play a number of positions? Sure. $5 million for the Yankees? Absolutely. You would want to hang on to somebody who's got that versatility and can help you. For us, using 10% of your salary on a backup. A few days later, and I'm a little nervous. We're level with the Angels, but we're 1 game behind the White Sox, the Blue Jays, the Phillies. All of them on 66 wins, all of them right there with us possibly able to overtake them. It's not where I want to be. 5 games to go in the season. The next day is an 11-inning victory over the Angels. Bumps us ahead of them. puts us on par with a number of other teams. Scary moments. Getting hot at the right time. This is something I would have wanted a month ago. But now that we're this close, going, wait, draft odds, I don't want to move up 5 spots or 3 spots in just a couple of days and be the next team, the bottom of the head of the bottom, 6 or 7. So, please, can we lose 4 to end the season? We've done the first of those. That drops us back down a couple of spots. And again the next day, 2 in a row, helping us out, doing us some favors. Blue Jays, Angels, the Weirdos, and the White Sox all level at 66 and 94. Also now 2 games behind. We've got 2 to play. You can nearly rule out the Phillies and the Pirates. Nearly. We can win 2. They can lose 2. It could still happen. Royals, only 100-loss team this season. There is no 100-win teams this season, though the Astros could still do it. They just need to take 1 of 2 in the last 2 days to be the only century mark team. The Cubs at 97 and 63 are the next best, with the Braves just 1 game further behind. The only other 90-win team, the Rangers have reached it. We do have the Astros here to wrap up the season and on the road. I like that. 66 and 95. They get that 100th win at our expense, and this helps things a little bit. So the Phillies have picked up another win. They're out of reach, and actually with us picking up a loss, the Pirates are out of reach. So we will not match any National League team. The National League looking a little stronger on the whole than the American League this year, as the bottom of the barrel is absolutely the 5 teams here with their weakest ahead of all 5 of us right now. The White Sox, first win in a while. They and the Blue Jays are tanking hard here to end the season, almost as if it's on purpose. But us and the Angels, 3 teams level, and we could still catch the White Sox, but 1 loss, and we find ourselves with those second odds. Over the last week, our defense has not been good. Runs given up has dropped us to 26th, but offensively, we've cross-played a little bit more than a couple teams we're chasing. So in the final game of the season, Marte is same as Trey Cabbage, and Marte's leading off for us, with Geloff hitting second. Denzel Clark is third. Urias, Vientos, Rengifo, Langeliers, Heribito Hernandez, and Armenteros is today's lineup. We have 1 position. Rengifo is the one guy who is the better than their catcher apparently. And Mason Miller is on the mound today. It's going to give us a bit of a better shot in this game, which we don't necessarily want. Offensively, clearly they have the advantage. So Marte at the plate here to start things off. I can see most of our stolen bases are in the early guys, other than Vien. Kind of a mixed lineup. Heribito Hernandez not even hitting 200 right now. Armenteros barely hitting 200. Marte and Clark barely hitting 225. Top of the lineup. Let's go ahead and do the until runners in scoring position option. And Marte opens the game with a double. No, he does not open with a double. He got on base, but we're with Clark at the plate. So Geloff moved Marte to second. That's driven hard to center, but it's going to hang in there. Oh, no, it doesn't. That did not go to center. No wonder he wasn't running that hard. That was a rather short pop-up to second base. Urias at the plate. He nearly gets that between the gap of short and third, but doesn't have enough oomph on it to drive it past shortstop. He's got enough range to fairly easily get over to it and ends the inning. Next time we have runners on scoring position is not until the bottom of the second, but problem with this one is it's 2 on and nobody out. Miller looks like he's gotten himself in a whole lot of trouble because these guys are jogging. That's a 3-run homer. Just like that, we trail 3-0 as the only matchup that was supposed to be favorable to us. Diaz with 55 power, jacks one out to deep left. 17 homers on the season for him now, and that's tough to come back from. They add a 4th run before the end of the inning, but we do get our first in the top of the 3rd to get a little bit closer, and a second in the top of the 4th, but giving up 1 more puts us in a bad way. Oh yeah, 4 runs. It's 9-2. I think you can pretty much chalk this one up to it's done. 2 runs in the top of the eighth brings it back to 5-9 as we head to the top of the ninth. We'll give this one last chance. Zach Geloff. This, of course, is the final game of the season. We did want to lose this, so it's okay. It sucks that Mason Miller had a much weaker season this season than last, but I think that will help us keep his costs down because as of a year ago, he was looking pretty dang expensive. And I'm pretty sure he's heading into arbitration here as we strike out on the first player at the plate. Geloff that was. That's a walk, and Denzel Clark makes it to first base. Clark has, 12 stolen bases on the season? Let's see if he can make that lucky number 13, huh? I don't have control of it. Never mind. Right? I have full manager control to, the manager as we get a double play. Turn to wrap up our season. What a way to go down. That's it, folks. 5-9, losers, but that keeps us with second best odds, which is where we wanted to be. Gives the 101st win to the winningest team in Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros. In the end, we have a 3-way tie with the Blue Jays and the Angels for that second worst record overall. Guessing there's going to be some sort of tiebreaker. They might have us listed at the bottom, but it's not alphabetical. Why that is, I don't know, but I'm guessing that it's going to come down to some form of coin flip or something along those lines on who gets what for the odds. So it's definitely not a lock that we are number 2. 2, 3, or 4, absolutely. And then, of course, there's still going to be that lottery. So the playoff picture. The Orioles have clinched the AL East, the Twins, the Central, and the Astros, of course, the West. And the National League gets the Braves, Cubs, and Diamondbacks. All divisional winners with 88 wins or more. That's not a lot for the Diamondbacks. That's a fairly weak record. They're going to be vulnerable. Got a good offense, but mediocre defense. Well, pitching staff. Their defensive efficiency is pretty good. And for the wild cards, it's the Rangers, Mariners, and Red Sox, along with the Reds, Cardinals, and Dodgers just getting in. Now the gap ahead, 5 games there. Here, the Guardians missing by just a single game. That's the only one that was close. That was between the Red Sox and the Guardians. The rest of that was all pretty straightforward. So before we go speeding through the playoffs, let's take a look at our roster and the state of things and also get a little feedback on how the individuals did a little more. We've seen how they've progressed through the season, but I'd like to see a little bit more. Got a lot of guys just on auto renewal, but we do have arbitration for Carlos Hernandez. Hernandez had a 4.62 ERA, came in just shy of 100 innings. JP Sears is entering arbitration. He had a bit of a rough go this season, but he did have 33 games in back-to-back, like 3 years in a row. He's pitched a lot with very similar outcomes each season. This a little bit worse than the previous 2. He did pull it back together. I wouldn't say he pulled it back together a bit. I think he was pretty consistent in that spot throughout the season. Gave up 2 runs a game more than he did a year ago. Got through a lot less innings than he did a year ago. Had almost as many walks, but 40 less strikeouts. Did win 1 more game than a year ago, but I'm not too worried about the arbitration side for Sears, other than the fact that he's been a consistent starter for 3 years in a row. Mitch Spence kept that ERA under 4, 3.98 auto renewal. Looking good for that one. Bryce Wilson, I believe, was one of the ones we brought in through arbitration. No. Sorry, I'm talking about arbitration when I shouldn't be talking about arbitration. He is the waiver wire opening day roster guy that we picked up to be that 5th starter. And Bryce Wilson did decently for us. He got that 32 games. He was 6-6. He had our best record, I think, for the pitching staff, through 150 innings for us with a pretty solid 4.14 ERA. He is facing arbitration. He's definitely going to get paid more next year than he did this year. But I'm thinking he's still going to be $4 to $5 million, maybe $6. And Yel De Los Santos is facing arbitration, the only reliever to do so. 3-star guy, but he had a 7.3 ERA. I don't think he's in for a huge pay increase, but he is our most expensive reliever, and he will get more expensive. He's not going to get less expensive, but he should be under 3, you would think. If that's the case, then he's easy to hang on to. He might be somebody we want to trade and avoid arbitration, or just kind of see what he's looking for. I might be letting him go. We did sign him as a free agent. As for the offense, Jeffers facing arbitration, 2.2 million this year. Hit 251. He did okay. He did okay. I think he'll easily be worth 3.5 to 4 million, and I'd be okay paying that to him. Langeliers is facing arbitration. He did not have a great year, but he didn't have an awful year. He definitely caught fewer games this season than he did the previous couple, partially because of the addition of Jeffers. He was still the guy. 10 homers less and only 63 at bats less. Something was a little lacking. His morale was not great. And that was a big problem this year. The morale seemed to be hurting us. Vientos is fine. We've got one more year left on the Urias deal. Geloff, Otto, Wagner came up late in the season. He's on Otto. J.P. Crawford, 10 million and 2 years left. How did he do? I know he started slow after coming up. He leveled off. 264. He did okay in the end. Much shortened season for him, and it was a lefty bat that we very much needed in the lineup. Rengifo, we're going to let go of that 5 million, even though he was on the better side of what we had. The only other arbitration player is Ruiz, and Ruiz is going to be due a pretty big pay raise. Disappointing on how his season ended up going after the previous couple. Like you would expect him to continue to progress or be similar to what he was the year before. He certainly played a lot more games, and maybe he felt the pressure more. But if anything, it helps keep his value down. And I think instead of facing arbitration, I want to get Ruiz locked into a somewhat longer deal. He's still just 26. He's got quality. He's a good leadoff hitter for us, especially. And if we can get him signed long-term on the relative cheap, I'll be happy to do so. But I know he's going to be in for a hefty pay raise of some sorts, just how much of a pay raise. And then Marte, of course, has that expiring, so happy to let him go. Happy to save that 20 billion. I was thinking it was 16. Ruiz did lead the league in stolen bases again with 60. 2 players that are retiring from the A level. McGowan, third baseman, and Cochran, a reliever. It's the only notice we've had so far. We got rid of most of those older players. We had a lot of retirees. Following the playoff tray here, the Rangers beat the Mariners in the first wild card. Red Sox beating the Twins in the other wild card. Our high A players list of retirees is much higher. 27. Got a lot of just older 20-something-year-olds that are giving up the dream, giving up the hopes. It's going to be quite a few to replace. Decent catcher found out of Australia. For the other wild cards, it was the Reds beating the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks beating the Dodgers. Weird to see the Dodgers going out so early in the playoffs, and we're kind of just getting things started in the division series, but the Astros already a 2-game lead over the Rangers. AAA, we have a couple guys going. 29-year-old second baseman and a reliever. List of AA players is also quite high. I'm really surprised how much of these guys are giving up hope this year. I mean, I get it with Quintana at 36, but it leaves me with a lot more holes to fill than I expected. Big changes coming in one area. I've got a lot of expiring contracts this year where I had nothing. I think I had one expiring contract or 2 on the entire staff. This year we definitely have some more expiring contracts, and I'm going to let it happen because I've discovered that there's definitely better options out there. You got to pay them a little bit more, but there's definitely better staff out there who can really, really help your organization. I actually have a fair reputation now, 2 years in. I'm a somewhat known quantity already. At the senior level, our third base coach, Eric Martins, is the only one with the expiring contract, so we'll look to replace him. I mean, see, at AAA, we've got 2 guys expiring. AA, all 3 are expiring. Regular A, all three are expiring. The Rookie League, both of them, 5 out of 6 are expiring. So we definitely have some pieces, some elements that we're going to look to replace and not really extend. Here's just a sample on why I want to make changes. This is our AAA manager. His ratings, he's average in a few places. He's got an average reputation. He's good in 2. He teaches running well. Now, the biggest thing for me, I don't necessarily care how our farm system. I don't care how good of managers they are. I care how they develop talent more than anything else. And this is not good talent development. He can teach running. Fine. There is far more important things like defense are all more important. Hitting, pitching, teaching these things are definitely more important. So this is somebody that I'm going to let go and replace. By the way, and a few other quick metrics before we wrap this thing up. First off, total attendance, we were still dead last, even though it was quite a bit higher than last year. Our budget was, of course, lowest, and our payroll wasn't last. It was 29th this year. We did increase fan interest over the course of this season slightly, now with 32. Everything else remains the same in terms of the market size and the fan loyalty. We had 2 goals for this season. One of those was don't suck completely. Hey, we improved by 16 games over a 2-year span. We improved by 7 games from last year. That's still showing up as red, though. That's apparently still in the suck completely range. I think if we had gotten that 4 more wins, if we'd gotten that 70 that was predicted for our year, I don't think it would have been red. I think we're that close to have gotten an okay view. But upgrading second base, Urias actually just did the job for us. So he is green. We did get that one. The manager reputation thing, we've got till 28 for that. This is the big thing for next year. A top 20 prospect, Denzel Clark. We got him up to 32. It's a nice rank, but he's not going to be on the list next year. Top 6 minor league program, we improved and then lost Clark off those rankings by bringing him up. Next year is almost one of those years you don't want to bring anybody up if you want to keep your job. The increased fan interest from a 15 up to a 32. It's come a long ways from where it was. But we're going to pause things there for now. The playoffs still ongoing, and we're going to get into the off season, of course, just after that. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.